Hi everyone, LazyFire here. Welcome back to Battlefield 4 Multiplayer. Today we're on Operation Dawnbreaker. It's the last of the vanilla maps, or the base game maps. So this is the only one we haven't seen that shipped with the game so far. And Operation Dawnbreaker reminds me a lot of a mix of Siege of Shanghai and Flood Zone, I guess would be the way I'd describe it. Those are both, of course, urban maps. There's not a lot of hills or areas, free areas, but there are a lot of streets and there's a lot of rooftops that people like to hang out on. There's also a pretty good assortment of vehicles. As you can see here, we're getting shot down by a chopper. I don't know exactly what happened there. I think he may have nailed me with a heat seeker on his way down or something, but I got no lock-on tones or anything. Very weird. This is actually a pretty old video, so a lot of stuff you see here might be because of things that weren't patched out, but it serves its purpose. We're going to see a lot of this map, if not most of it. And right here, I'm just going to go join a goon squad once again. And the big thing about this map is that with Siege of Shanghai, there's a few elevators people like to go up. On this map, there's a lot of elevators, and there's a lot of tall roofs that people like to hang out on. And this can cause some problems. One is clearing people off of the B point if they happen to be on the roof is particularly difficult. The other thing is that the E point, the starting point for the enemy team on this area, is pretty difficult to clear out of people like, well, my team if we get entrenched in that area. A few matches before this one, even though this was a few weeks ago, I kind of remember this pretty well, my team kind of got stuck trying to clear people out of this point over and over and over again. And they just had a spawn beacon set up in a very convenient location that we couldn't find, and kept coming in and kind of screwing us over because we spent all of our time coming back here to try to clear it out. E is a pretty extensive point. It's one of the larger radiuses. Most of it's actually encased in this building here, so people who want to capture it can pretty easily do it. They can get pretty far away, as you can see. Right here, I'm expecting a bit of a vehicle showdown in a moment, so I'm waiting for that. But this is the path out of their spawn. There are actually two of them. There's another one that goes around the back of this building here, that road on the left side, and that's where a lot of people are going to be taking tanks and mobile anti-aircraft guns out of. It's especially popular for things like ATVs. Right there, I get gunned down by the enemy team's Little Bird. Not really anything I could do about that with my C4. Hey, an F-35's open. But we're not really going to worry too much about it, actually. This is not a good map to fly on unless you're flying a Little Bird or even an attack helicopter. Mostly because with the stealth jets, which are the only jets that are available on this map, there's not a ton of space for you to really maneuver. The streets are narrow. You can probably get through them pretty easily if you were good. But for the most part, it's kind of a fool's errand to do that. So you end up flying above everything, or going around the entire map, and there's not a ton of space, and people will still just shoot you down. So stay out of jets on this map. A lot of people actually end up using them to taxi to points. This is probably the one map where that's actually kind of useful. There's also a mobile anti-aircraft gun for each team coming out of spawn, so your helicopters are probably going to be in a bit of trouble if they push too far. One of the really popular techniques, if you're on the team I'm on here, is to wait for the other people to take over the B point or get on the roof near B and just keep going up there and gunning them down. It'll be a lot of easy points for you if you're in the Little Bird, or if you happen to get up there and take them down from the elevator yourself if they're not watching it. Of course, this is one of those maps where people do throw C4 right in front of the elevators and stuff, so you might have a little bit of trouble. And right here, just working my way up these hills. Say goodbye, tank. And I went down with the ship. I have not been doing a lot of C4ing of tanks as of late. I feel like I have to get back to that at some point. But that's besides the point here. Operation Dawnbreaker is called Operation Dawnbreaker because there are two bits of evolution here, and one of them deals directly with that. As the map continues on, you're going to notice it getting lighter and lighter out. The sun's actually rising, and if you were flying, you might have trouble seeing if you go in that direction. It's actually kind of a neat effect. The other thing is that there is a gas main that runs over near the BA area down at the other end of the map from where I am, and if you explode that, you can actually open up some space where tanks and such will fall into sort of this gap. Kind of neat, actually. Don't mind it. Those are kind of two inoffensive evolutions, but for some reason, this map in particular crashes the hell out of the Xbox 360 version of this game. From what I've been told, pretty much any attempt to play this map on Xbox 360 will result in it crashing immediately. For its part, this is actually a... Oh, this is, yeah. I hate people sometimes. This is actually one of the more stable matches, or one of the more stable maps in the game for me, anyways. I've never really had any trouble on any maps, even the Naval Strike maps that just came out. A lot of people are having trouble with rubber banding. So you walk forward, but then the game sends you flying back to where you were a second ago and everything. I didn't have any of that. I had maybe a couple seconds at one point. Oh boy, these guys are dumb too. This is great. But this is the B point, and this is difficult. The office building that's just above my head here, it's actually a pretty popular haunt for a lot of people. And what you'll end up doing is if you try to hold this area, you'll end up fighting about 1 million people. There's more guys coming in off the roof. There's people who are hanging out in the office building. The office building itself is actually pretty long. You can get inside the office building at the B point here, just a little behind it, and run basically all the way over to the C point, which is in the center of the map. You can see it there. The C point, of course, is your easiest access way to D. The C point is a bridge, and you can actually knock the bridge down, so you can block off the access of vehicles like tanks in that area, which is sometimes a good idea. But for the most part, I'm not super worried about it because these guys are dumb. They just, I mean, wow. That guy went down fast. He took one shell to the back and he took a C4 too, so he was not going anywhere. Now, a lot of these fights, and you can see the level lighting up, are going to center around these buildings with elevators. As you can see, my team's actually gone ahead and secured the roof where I was getting C4'd from. But there's still fighting going on in the area. I'm getting shot in the back and the front. Not great. And of course, you can see here that I adjust my volume. But you can also see that the little pillars there. Geez, I completely lost the train of thought. But the bollards actually show up on this map as well for the parking garages. There's another parking garage over between A and B, as a matter of fact. So there's a couple of them. There's a few different paths, but here you can see the full breadth, I guess you could say, of this map. You can see these areas here. People get up on a lot of these rooftops. The roof I'm passing over right now is actually a very popular spot. And let's just get a couple points on that guy, but that time I got hit by an active radar missile. I can tell you that right now, just from the way I fell over and everything. There was barely any warning. Yeah, active radar missile. And that's kind of what makes going over to that side of the map a little bit dangerous if you happen to be flying. But I'm going to stick to the ground for a bit. People are telling me B is kind of important. You can see my team is pretty concentrated up there. And you can see, look at this. Look at this guy. On top of that little rounded area there, he's just hanging out. This is kind of what happens on this map. People do get into these spots, these overhangs and balconies and such, and they kind of just watch over the points. It's effective. I can't blame them for it. I don't know what I was doing here. I think I was trying to blow a hole in the wall. But if I come all the way down this way, as you, like I said, this building goes all the way to C. You can actually switch over here, go around the metal detectors. Don't go through. Never go through the metal detectors if you can help it, by the way. I noticed that on Operation Locker a lot. There's a couple areas where there's metal detectors. You can very easily just go on the left or right side and not set off the metal detectors. Great for flanking people. Absolutely fantastic for it, actually. Now, inside this building, it's kind of interesting. You can actually hit a electrical main over in the other room here, off and to the left of the room I just passed, and that will actually turn off all the lights in the building for a set amount of time. It's another little thing that appears in Operation Locker, as a matter of fact. It's actually pretty cool. I like it. I can never tell if this is glass or not. You'll also notice that there's a lot of ATVs just kind of scattered around the map. Those are for kind of ease of use, ease of motion through the map. It's a fairly... Ooh, hey, Commander airdrop there. It's a fairly spread out map for what it is. I mean, yes, it is an urban area map, and there's not a ton of variation you can have to your pathing and everything. But at the same time, it's a large map. There's a lot you can do, where you can go. So it makes sense that there's at least a few of those kind of hanging around. Now, unfortunately, there is not a ton you can do with air vehicles, like I said. The attack chopper especially, when I played this, I don't know what I'm shooting. I thought that was a laser there. The attack chopper especially, at the time I was playing this map, was super useless because a lot of the buffs and changes to the whole thing hadn't been put into place yet. So people would kind of avoid it, or they would use it, but at their own risk. And the little bird was still kind of reigning supreme, and it still does on this map. We'll see how that goes in the future now that they've changed a few things around how fast it repairs and everything. Here we go. Let's follow this man. I hate when I can't quite jump something like that. I always think I can. I don't know. Maybe it was Titanfall, I think, was to blame for that. I kept thinking I could just double jump over it or something. Now watch this. This is an interesting tactic this guy takes. I don't know how that worked. This guy, Death Lorax, is he got me 3 times so far. Well, it's right at the bottom of the screen there, so you can see a plurality of my deaths at his hands. But let's not take the hell. Let's stay out of the sky. I keep thinking I want to fly that thing, and I know better now. Of course, this is back early. This is early in the game. I should mention. I've said it a couple times. This is a few weeks ago, but this is like when the F-35 actually had a worse turning radius than the A-10. This is how old this video is. I recorded it really early in the game's life, and no. Yes. Okay, good plan. I like this. But yeah, I recorded this really early in the game's life. I never really had a chance to do anything because I always found this map particularly boring. I don't much like it, to be completely blunt. I think it's one of the worst maps in the vanilla game. I think it's right up there with Flood Zone and Operation Locker as not being a good map or a good representation of anything the game really has on offer. It's an interesting enough infantry map. It's an interesting map if you've got some decent teams, but a lot of the time it turns into a complete slog and a battle for the rooftops, and it's just not a fun map from that perspective. I don't really want to have to go up an elevator 50 times so I can hold on to a point, just because the other team likes to snipe from an area and they have people spawning in on them. In contrast, this can be an actual pretty interesting map in something like Obliteration, where the kind of the pipelines of the map send you certain ways. It's kind of cool in that regard, but for Conquest, it's pretty bad. What is he shooting at? I was long dead by the time he started doing that. And you can see, like I said, this is early in the game's life. That guy is level 110, which was at the time the max level in the game. And very quickly our fortunes turned. Remember, we had almost all the points, save for maybe C, not too long before this. Now we're down to nothing. Struggling to keep A even. And that's kind of what happens in this map. If you start dominating and you start working to clear people off the roofs at the same time, you'll end up losing points because you're going to be spending all your time on rooftops. Now, I was actually lucky enough to get told that Riller was coming for me here. It's the only reason I survived that fight. I had no reason to survive it. But then I go and try to find out what's going on over here. Yeah, good. That guy needed to die. But we're finally pulling A back in. Nope. Yeah. It's one of those things, and yeah. Ugh, that guy is just speeding along, isn't he? I'm very impressed by that sprint ability. And, I don't know why I wanted to show this, but yeah, you can access your battle packs within the game. I wanted to go get boosts, just because. Now, the interesting thing about boosts that I haven't really mentioned before is that they... Ooh, hey, look, I get the anti-air gun. It doesn't last long. But the boosts actually are retroactive from when you activate them. So if you activate it at the end of the map, it'll actually throw on a bunch of bonus points just for that. Not a bad deal if you can get it. And especially when you combine that with something like double XP weekends, you can get yourself up pretty fast. A lot of people don't like the battle pack system. They don't like the XP boosts because it messes with some of the metrics like your score and your health and everything. Or sorry, but rather this thing called skill. It's a stat that's tracked in battle log, and it's one of the more meaningless stats because it's calculated in this weird way. From what I understand, is basically look how fast this thing went down. I had no chance at all. I didn't realize they were all over the place. But skill is more or less calculated by well, the thought was that it was calculated by how many times you kill somebody who's higher ranked than you versus how many times you're killed by somebody who's lower ranked than you. And then it starts calculating off that. A lot of people have shown that that's actually not true, and things like score per minute actually get affected by your battle packs, which I believe someone said the score per minute does actually factor into your skill level. So if you have a battle pack active or something like that all the time, you know, you've got 25% boosts that just basically pop up like fucking candy in this game. Uh, you could actually show up with a much higher score per minute than you actually have in the game. And that's kind of interesting. People have been having small freakouts over that fact and saying XP boosts are totally useless, or they won't use them, but other people do, so the other people get advantages. You know what? It's a fucking video game, people. You need to calm down just a little bit, about this stuff. It bugs me on like a weird emotional level. I guess I'm just as bad as them in some regards, but when you start like saying this game sucks because there's battle packs and double XP weekend and it screws up other people's stats and makes them look better because their score per minute's too high, go find something else to do. No one no one really has time for that. Just play a game, have fun with it for once in your life. But you know what? Oddly enough, Battlefield is one of those games I feel like that, and we're getting towards the end of this whole thing. I've got 2 videos left that I want to do. One's a naval strike video showing off carrier assault, and the other one I have planned with a guest. But the real thing is about this is Battlefield to me always felt like the kind of game where you could just go in and mess around for a while. It's kind of like an open world shooter or something like that in some regards. You know, you got these big maps and everything like that. But people, they care way too much about fake internet numbers to sometimes have fun with their game, and they take it far too seriously. And if I can avoid it, I don't want to play with those people. Now, I'm also known for getting kind of upset, and you know, it's never too bad, but it's like, you know, I want to have fun, and then other people have decided long ago that they did not enjoy fun in video games, and maybe I want to just launch myself across the map with C4 for a couple hours. Is that so wrong? You know, whatever. Actually, you know what? I'll go to put together another video, a compilation video of sorts, to celebrate the end of this game, because there's some things to show off. But hey, we're on top of a building here. Here's the fun part, dropping off the building onto the sea point. Yeah, the points on this map, everything but for E and A, are really easily accessible from buildings with ladders, or elevators, my mistake. So trying to keep keep people off those buildings is kind of important. Do I keep adjusting my microphone? So we're almost done here. You can see the score is not really even close. We can actually win this over the course of several minutes with just holding on to more points than them. We could actually hold on to one less point than them and just drain them on tickets if we really needed to. Which, not my favorite way to do it, but it's a very viable way to do it. You can see there's a good number of LLJK or, something awful people in this server right now. Just, it's one of those things, the server more or less got invaded by something awful. It was, one of those days. It's very difficult to keep teams together, it should be mentioned, in this game. Mostly because admins have different scripts and they have auto balance features and such. What the auto balance scripts usually do is they just take the last player joined and then put them on the team with less people, and that can make it difficult for some people to play with their friends. or it will split up squad. Most of the time, it will not split up people that are in a squad together, and it'll just move entire squads or something like that, or it'll move lone wolves, or it'll move small, small groups of squads. So sometimes people will stick together, but sometimes it just moves people at random, and it can get really frustrating. There's no lobby system for this game on the Xbox 360 or PS3 or Xbox One or any console actually. None of the consoles have any sort of lobby system. On the consoles especially though, and the PC of course doesn't. It does have Steam Chat and Mumble and stuff that you can work in on the side, but trying to get a group of people together to play this is sort of an exercise in frustration at times. And it was sort of like that with Battlefield 3. However, in Battlefield 3, by the end, you could own servers, so you could kind of just force teams and use the game itself as sort of a lobby. So it wasn't such a huge deal by the end. But console users do not have that ability at the moment. It'll be coming soon, supposedly. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. A couple videos left, but then we're done. Bye.